this is Kate from Generate Magic, and I want to expand on what I've talked about in recent videos. So this whole idea of dealing with unfavorable thoughts or conditions and moving beyond simply trying to tolerate them or ignore them, or thinking of them as something you just have to kind of deal with until you get your wish or until you get your stuff. But rather as, first of all, moving into the state where you're no longer resisting them, but instead you're in the state of radical acceptance. But even moving beyond acceptance and actually savoring them, and really just savoring the full nuance, the whole spectrum of the human condition or the human experience, and seeing all of it, even things that we would normally think of as bad, like anger or grief or unfavorable conditions, tragic conditions, and just seeing it, embracing all of it, and embracing just the richness and the nuance and the texture and all of it. But I had another revelation recently that kind of just brought it all together. And so I woke up about 3 hours before my alarm went off because I was having this throbbing pain in my left toe. I thought I had trouble the night before getting to sleep. I didn't get to end up falling asleep until like 5 in the morning. And so this night I thought, I finally am going to get a good night's sleep. And sure enough, I fell asleep almost immediately. I slept really well. But then once again, my plan to get a decent night's sleep and wake up at a decent hour was thwarted. And so I wake up with this pain. I think, well, maybe I can just fall asleep and it'll go away, but it didn't. And this pain is not new to me because I've gotten it before my foot. I think just because I'm very active, I dance a lot, and so I think the dancing kind of exacerbates it. And so I did my usual method, which is I soaked it in some warm water and Epsom salt. I took some ibuprofen, but the time went by and the pain wasn't really even reducing at all. And so then I started releasing on it, and I started saying yes to the pain, because that's the whole idea of kind of this whole release technique is normally when we're experiencing something very unpleasant, such as physical pain, our natural reaction is either to say no to it, literally to say no to it, or we're just resisting, which is another way of kind of saying no to the condition. So instead you're just saying yes to it. And when you do, your body, you start to feel lighter, and you're no longer in that mode where you're tense and you're resisting, and the pain does start to go away. And so that's what was happening with me. And so I thought about it. And I thought about reality transurfing, because one of the things in reality transurfing is this whole idea of anomalous action. And so if you're stuck in this script where you're kind of living out the same patterns and you want to change the script and you want this radical transformation, then you want to do something that's out of the ordinary. So that's where the word anomalous comes from. And so even just reacting to a condition, to something differently than you normally would be considered an anomalous action, because you're changing the script, right? And so saying yes to intense physical pain would be an example of anomalous action. Another example is if you're driving, somebody cuts you off, the typical reaction is to get really angry, maybe flip the person off, but instead to just kind of smile and wave at the person. That would be another example of anomalous action. And so that everything that I've been discussing about looking at these experiences and holding them up in a new light and just reacting to them in a different way, and even kind of finding the pleasure in them, would be very anomalous. But even kind of more than that, I think what really brings this all together and what really makes it powerful is seeing that none of this has to control you, right? The conditions don't have to control you, and your feelings and emotions don't have to control you either. And this is really, I think, humor really can come into play too. And so there's a show that I like to watch when I was a kid called Mad TV, and there was this character called the Vancombe Lady. She was played by Nicole Sullivan. So that she was this blonde lady, super rude, super unpleasant. And so I'm not it's not for everybody. I'm just going to warn you in advance. It's very dark humor. And, but if you're curious at all, just type in Vancombe Lady. And so there's this one skit I was watching recently where she goes into this locker room. And the locker room, so she's playing the role of a sports reporter, and the football team has just lost. And so they're feeling really defeated. They're feeling just really discouraged and really down. And she is really just saying to rub salt in the wound would be putting it mildly. And so she's really just saying all these horrible things to them. And so she's interviewing the players, like one of the players, he's a quarterback, and she goes, "Oh, you're the star quarterback, right?" And she's like, "Wait a minute, I'm just going to call you the quarterback." And then she starts bringing up like all his failed plays, during the game, and really just kind of rubbing it into his face. And you really have to kind of watch the whole skit to get the full impact, just how cruel she is and how much she really just kind of pisses all of these players off. But I just thought about, okay, well, the dominant like emotion, right, that all of these players were feeling was this huge emotion of defeat. And it's when you feel defeated, right, it's a very heavy emotion. So I almost kind of had this out-of-body type experience where I was looking back at all the times in my life, going back to childhood and going back to adolescence, where I felt defeated, and just all the heaviness that went along with it, and all the thoughts that went along with it, like, oh, poor me, and all my dreams gone to dust, and the drama behind it. And it's just, there's so many different kind of scenarios, right, that kind of go along with this emotion. Like for instance, if something isn't going very well in your life, like your job search isn't going very well, or your business, or your finances, or you're having relationship issues, and then somebody like a friend or a family member just kind of real innocently like asks, "Oh, how's such and such going?" And you kind of like, put on a fake smile and kind of grit your teeth, and you're just like, "Oh, it's going fine." But on the inside, you're just feeling so pissed off. And so all of this, so I was looking at all of these scenes kind of, yeah, from this kind of observer perspective, and just and as I was looking at it, it's almost kind of like I saw the Vancombe Lady coming in and just like kind of insulting me, and just really kind of rubbing it in my face. And I just, for some reason, I just started laughing, and not just laughing at the scenes that I was picturing, but just this whole, just the way we often just take ourselves and we take our life so seriously, right? And so again, so I think all of this comes back to this whole idea that we don't have to let these recurring patterns, or these events, or these emotions, or these thoughts, we don't have to let it control us. And often it feels like it does, right? Often it feels like we have no control. We're just kind of floating down the ocean willy-nilly, and life is just having her way with us, and no matter what, we can never get ahead. And so it's really kind of becoming the captain of the ship, right? And it's not like you can necessarily control everything that happens to you, but you can control, or I don't really like the word control, but you can decide how you're going to react to it, right? And you can decide, okay, I'm not going to let this event or this emotion define me, and I'm not going to allow it to ruin my day. I'm not going to allow it to ruin my life. And it's just this determination that I'm going to enjoy the hell out of my life no matter what, no matter what's happening around me. And so I think that's what it all comes back to, right? It's just taking charge of our lives, and it's almost kind of like you're a microcosm of the universe. Or if you're not an English major like me, you're a microcosm is basically kind of like a little world, right? So you're your own self-contained world, or your own self-contained universe. And so instead of being just kind of this helpless person, just kind of floating around, and all these things are happening to you, and you don't know why, and you feel so helpless, instead you're the world, you're the universe, and you're observing kind of all these things happening to you. And yeah, and it just kind of gives you a whole new degree of control in how you decide, how you're going to interpret it, and how you're going to react to it. And And so we hear a lot kind of in different teachings, a lot of different kind of Zen teachings, right? This whole idea of kind of playing the observer. And but to me, a lot of that stuff, it's all, you know, obviously good stuff, but it always just kind of felt kind of dry to me, the way that it was presented. So that's why I like to always just kind of make it fun. And so my way of making it fun is just kind of, yeah, anytime I'm feeling these kind of heavy emotions, right? Or I feel myself kind of spiraling, kind of getting carried away with this trauma and these old stories, like, oh, I'll never amount to anything. I just kind of imagine the Van Comb lady coming in and just kind of, and just immediately sort of like lightens up the whole mood, right? And so it's that. So it's recognizing that you're in charge, that you don't have to let these events or emotions or thoughts control you or define you, right? And that's something else that I talked about, right? Is just because something happens to you doesn't, so for instance, just because you don't get a job that you wanted doesn't mean that you're a failure, right? Doesn't mean that you're a loser. And so then, yeah, so it's taking back control, deciding that you're going to enjoy the hell out of your life no matter what. And then on top of that, if you want like that extra bonus, why not just kind of milk some enjoyment out of everything, even the not so favorable things, right? And as I like to call it, alchemize crap into gold. And and humor, I think, is the ultimate form of alchemy, because not only does it make your life better, but if you can share the humor with others, then it makes their life better and brighter as well. And so that's what we're going to be talking about in my program, my 21-day program, where you design your avatar. And so it's about, yeah, it's about taking charge of your life. It's about deciding who you are, and it's about alchemizing crap into gold. And no matter what happens, right, at the end of the day, you get to decide how to interpret it, and you get to decide who you are. And so all the information is in the description. Thank you so much for watching. Have a wonderful day.